This is Dennis Raimondi with the Coffee League. I have on my show today Laura Gonzalez. I read about her somewhere and I got real interested because she started an organization, which she's in the process of launching, called Strong Women of Coffee. I was curious about that. I have had Michaela Gerard from Holland on, and Ella Jensen from Houston, and Erica Vani from New York City, all women who have run conferences on women in coffee and issues concerning women. But in any event, thank you so much for coming on the Coffee League, where we discuss everything about coffee and the coffee industry and the culture around it. And certainly, we want to hear your perspective. Uh, Laura, tell us a little bit about how you came to start Strong Women of Coffee and what you want to accomplish with it.
Yeah, well, hello, and thank you for inviting me to be here on the Coffee League. And well, I started Strong Women of Coffee just as a personal project, and I still consider it as a personal project. And what I would like to accomplish with this project is just like I want the world to know the women in coffee that I know. They're so smart and they're so like brave, and that I want the world to know the women in coffee.
Right.
Other than the stories, I mean, it's also important to have awareness of the harassment and the gender issues that we have in the industry. But I want the story to go a little bit further than that. I want to give a little bit more of like a human approach, maybe. I'm not sure if that's the right wording for it. Just to hear about their stories and their fears and what they have to say. So that's what I want to accomplish with my project.
Well, hopefully we can educate people about it today and get people that are interested in touch with you. So tell us a little bit about your journey into the world of coffee. When did you start working with coffee? How did that come about? And where did you start?
I'm super new in the world of coffee. I just started in coffee a year and a half ago, and I'm the operations manager for Sanremo Canada. So when I started working
tell us a
there.
little, for those of our listeners that are not familiar with San Remo, tell us about the company, what they do.
Well, well, Sanremo, it's a machine brand, just like La Marzocco or Simonelli or those big brands. It's an Italian company as well. And Sanremo identifies because they have really cutting edge technology when it comes to their machines. So it's really cool, and lots of big names are behind the machines, like Sasha Sestic and John Gordon, and like the whole Sanremo team is like so interesting.
Sasha Sestic from Australia, the former World Barista champion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
we had him on the
Part of
show,
the.
by the way. So he's
Oh,
here in my podcast. He was really fantastic, and he's traveling the world now. And one of the things he's focused on is helping coffee farmers and all that. So that's an aside. But so go ahead, tell us more.
yeah. Well, he was part of the. He's part of the Sanremo team, and he worked to develop the Opera, which is like the main machine for the Sanremo machines. But I mean, the whole team at Sanremo is it's great. And also Ben Stevens is also from Australia. He's amazing. And the whole Sanremo family is it's good, and it's great. But yeah, that's how I started in coffee. And here I just started with my coffee education, which is like so much to learn about coffee.
Right.
And I already did the SEA, the foundation training. So I'm still
Coffee
working on it.
Association, yeah.
Yeah. So I have the foundation for barista, green coffee, roasting, and everything. And
Right. Now
I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to pursue more like the next level of
Hmm.
the certification. Yeah.
Right. Now, tell us about your experience or things you've heard about issues concerning women in coffee. And by the way, I've had some real powerhouse women on the show, like Joanna Alm, the head of owner of Drop Coffee in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'll be visiting her operation in a couple of weeks in Stockholm, and she's always a finalist the last several years in the world roasting competitions. And I
Oh,
had on Andrea. I got to think of her name. The Joanna and then I had Andrea Allen, of the owner of Onyx Coffee, also a competitor, and she has a tremendous roasting company, a tremendous coffee company, very very successful. But are they the exceptions? Tell us some of the challenges that women are facing in coffee, and some of the things that you want to address with your organization.
um, well, I think there needs to be more women involved in coffee,
Hmm.
and not only as baristas. I
Hmm.
think there needs to be more women roasting and trainers
Hmm.
and green buyers and everything. And I mean, I'm not sure why there's not enough women doing it.
Hmm.
I don't think the I don't think it's an industry that, like, oh no, women, we don't have that opportunity. We do have that opportunity. I just think it's a matter of that. I'm trying to figure out why we don't pursue those careers. Like, why are we so afraid of pursuing that kind of um, career in coffee, like
Right.
roasting or
Right.
more things, or like
Right.
even competing, right? Like
Right.
every competition I've seen is just a few women like competing, and there's like 15, 20 guys.
Right, right.
So
I think that I've researched or not researched really. I've had a number. I've tried to have a balanced number of women, people from various marginalized groups on my podcast, so we really get an accurate picture. I just had Candace Madison on of Irving Coffee Farm. She is it's a major coffee company, major roaster in the New York area. She does all their education, and these are issues she discussed. She's from England. She's African American. She's a woman, and has had to deal with a lot. And I sometimes wonder, like, when I travel now, I was just in New York, and I went to a lot of cafes, and I am seeing more and more women baristas, which is great. But like you said, in terms of roasters, you don't see them, and on the upper echelons of the industry, I don't know. For instance, the big players like Stumptown and Intelligentsia and Counterculture and Blue Bottle and all, on their boards, on their executive levels, are there women? Because I think if you don't have it at the top, that representation, then it limits, you know, it limits where you can women, or at least perceive where they can go in coffee. And I think that we're seeing more women as baristas, which is, a big move forward, I think, in terms of gender equality. But you see the baristas. You don't see all the other people working in all the other different areas. And I think that's the point you're bringing out, that there may be some limitations in terms of what has been available to the women to this point. And obviously that's something you want to look at and challenge. How do you wish to proceed with Strong Women of Coffee, that organization? How can people find out more about it? And where do you want to go with it?
well, right now I only have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. I'm still working on the website, because obviously website building is not my thing.
Right.
So if anybody out there would like to collaborate, it will be, please direct message me on Instagram, and
Uh-huh.
I would love to collaborate with someone to build my website. But I don't know. I want to see that. Like I want more women to see that there are more like I have the operations manager from Palette Coffee, which is a local roaster here in Vancouver. I had Maria that works for Ornex. I mean, there are more careers in coffee than just barista, and I would like other women to see that, right?
Right, 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 right,
Also, I would like to show women that they can also be entrepreneurs
right,
because most of the coffee shops are owned by men.
right,
So I also want to show like there are women out there who own coffee
right,
shops and they're doing a great job and they own roasteries and everything. So
right. And
that's
there are organizations that exist. I think it's Barista Connect. If you go to baristaconnect.com, that's an organization of women in coffee that runs a conference that's doing a lot of great stuff. They had, I believe, a big conference down in Melbourne, Australia, and I had one of the speakers on from there. She's a green buyer from Australia. And by the way, Penny Garrett, I had her on my podcast. She's with Copper Door Coffee Roasters in Denver, and they're the only all women owned coffee roaster in
oh
Colorado, and maybe anywhere for all I know. So and I mentioned Erica Vani of Green Coffee Sales. These are all people you can listen to on the podcast. Michaela Gervard, Gevard. She's the at Coffee Collective in Copenhagen, and I was there. It was one of the great cafes in the world, and she's the head of human resources there. In some ways, I think, and I've had a number of women on, like Amy Tart of Lady in the Mug, and some others that have opened cafes themselves. So I think it's a beginning. I think there's a lot of obstacles, and what you have to be careful about is when Hannah Neuschwander I had on, she writes about coffee and is with the world director of World Coffee Research. She's their communications
hmm
director. But what can happen is they start putting women out in the front where you can see them as baristas and whatever. But who's really controlling the industry? Probably it's still mostly men at the top. And I think these are the things that you wish to challenge. Now, how has your company uh, 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 reacted to what you're doing with Strong Women of Coffee?
well, I always have the support of here of Sanremo Canada and Genius Equipment.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is my personal project, but my manager has been very supportive, and sometimes I need to be late because I just do this on my free time, and
Hmm.
I'm like, can I please go to interview this person because it's gonna be at her cafe like for this
Hmm.
time, and he's like, yeah, sure, go. It's very very supporting and everything.
All right.
So
So when
uh,
I'm curious, so I get more detail, and our listeners get more detail. So if you have free time, if you have 2 or 3 days where you can just work on this, aside from putting together a website, what do you work on? And in regard to the website, what kind of content will you have?
I'm still working on it on the website. I just probably I will have the whole interview that I do with all the women that I've interviewed already.
Hmm.
Um, I want to do something because obviously I'm here in Canada and women in coffee are around the world, just like you said, like people in Sweden and Australia and everywhere.
Hmm.
So I want to have part of the website where they can just go there and maybe I can just upload my questions there and they can write their questions and I don't know, and then I would just go there and read them and feature them on the Instagram page.
Great,
So I'm still working on the content of
great.
the website.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly from our side, the Coffee League, and when I say our side, it's pretty much me right now, and my partner Jack Grieshaber, who does all my web work because I also don't have that skill. And I wanted to mention the woman in Australia, Selena Lazarus is her name, and she's the co-founder and director of First Crop Coffee, an ethical green coffee trading company based on philanthropic values. She does really great work down there, and I think she was recently picked as a outstanding some major award she got in the area of business in Australia. I can't remember the detail, but all of these are on my podcast. And also, if you, Laura, know of women that you think have something new or important to say, I'll always have them on the show. I'm really trying to balance my presentation in terms of getting every area of it, and also in regard to women in coffee. We talk about the cafes and the roaster and the barista and the people on the corporate boards of major coffee companies. But the other area that I'm really curious about, and I want to do more shows on and discover more, is the farms themselves. And not just the
Yeah.
farmers, but the people that work the farms. And my understanding in a lot of areas, the people working the farms are mostly women. And there's always concern if coffee is in an industry where people in poor countries are growing coffee for people in rich countries, and how equitable is it, and are people being properly compensated, and are coffee companies transparent in terms of all that? I know Onyx Coffee has done a lot to be transparent, and maybe other companies have as well. And one of the things about Onyx Coffee, it is owned and operated by a woman. So that's something to really to look at. Sarah is running that company. So yeah, so I think that you're off to a good start here. What are some other areas you'd like to mention or discuss with our listeners?
Well, I mean, just to uh, be aware of more women in coffee, and just to keep going with I would like to make people aware to, I was in Toronto, I think it was last month, and I
Hmm.
attended this panel discussion,
Hmm.
and one of the panelists was saying that she will open the cafe. She's the manager every single day, and then there was a customer that was waiting for her. One day there was another barista there,
Mm.
and the customer immediately thought that the guy was the manager.
Right, 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 right,
So
right,
I would like to make people aware
right,
not to do that kind
right,
of
right, right.
assumptions that because it's a
Mhm.
guy, he's the manager,
Right. Yeah,
or she
I
is the
think we see
manager.
that across the board in every industry, and it is 2018, and that shouldn't be the case anymore. And coffee could lead the way. And by the way, I got the name wrong. It's Andrea Allen of Onyx
Oh,
Coffee, and she is the owner along with her husband, and she is also competes in the barista competitions. I think 2016 and 17, she finished second or third in the U.S., and then this year, I was there and I thought she was going to win, but she didn't. And I hope the judging was fair and everybody was great. But I thought she was absolutely amazing, and she's the one that's really involved in this transparency about seeing what they pay for the coffee, where it's coming from, having a direct relationships with the coffee farms and all. But in any event, how, Laura, how could people find out more about what you do? How can they contact you? You can give a email,
yeah.
whatever you want to
Well,
give, and or people can contact me, and I'll put them in touch with you. Yeah.
yeah, of course. I mean, they can contact me to the email, which is strongwomenofcoffee@gmail.com, or they can direct message me on Instagram or Facebook at the handle at
Hmm.
Strong Women of Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
and
By the way,
I'll
that's a
be
great.
open.
It's a great name you have because you don't pull any punches. You know what it's right away what it's what it is. So I think that it's an easy one to remember, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wanted to reflect that the coffee industry is full of strong women,
Yeah. I
So,
have one other
yeah.
question for you. What is the
Sure.
coffee industry? What is the coffee culture like? You're from Mexico. What is it like there? Is there similarities? Is there specialty coffee in Mexico at this point, or in the cities or anywhere else?
Yeah, there is a specialty coffee right now going on, and I think it's growing.
Hmm.
Sorry, it's growing, and actually the Mexican barista champion, it's a woman actually. Her name is Ariadna,
Hmm.
and so it is growing. When I was there, like I said, I was not involved in coffee,
Hmm.
but so my knowledge of coffee was very limited.
Hmm.
But I've seen growing the specialty coffee culture in Mexico
Great.
in the past year, at least for what I can see. I'm sure it's been growing since before that.
Right.
But I think it's going to a good start, and I've seen lots of uh, roasters buying already Mexican coffee, which is something very new because
Hmm.
all the time you can hear like obviously Kenyan coffee, Colombian, Brazilian, and everything. So it's nice to see some blends with Mexican coffee. So,
Great, great. Well, let's learn more. I'd like to learn more about that myself. And if you could send me the contact information, or some way I can get a hold of the Mexican current Mexican barista champ, the woman who won that, I would love to have her on to discuss coffee in Mexico, and the coffee culture and the situation with women in coffee. Because what I want to do with my podcast is educate people about every aspect of coffee, and certainly this is and coffee culture, and this is a big part of it. I know in Scandinavia, this is something I've spent time there, and I'll look into. I think Scandinavia might be a little bit more advanced in terms of gender equality than
yeah,
the states and other parts of the world. But I'm sure there's issues and problems there as well. So we want to bring light to all of that. And well, thank you so much for taking the time. Are there any other points you'd like to mention or give to our listeners before we close tonight?
no, not really. Just thank you, and thank you to the followers for their support, and thank you. I mean, the coffee community is very welcoming and everything. So if anybody wants to just start learning about coffee, I'm sure like anybody will be happy to teach you about coffee. And just reach out, and all the
Great,
women out there, just let's just start making more noise. And
great,
yeah, that's it.
great. And so Laura Gonzalez, strong women of coffee or in coffee? Strong women of coffee, in coffee.
Of coffee.
Of coffee. I like that. And stay on after we close off here, because I will give you the contact information for other women that I know that I've had on that are working in this area. So I think connecting and networking is super important. And those listening in, uh, again, any suggestions for guests, let me know. And you follow me on at the Coffee League. And I'm always posting stuff up. And actually, one of the things, I was just in New York City, and I try to focus on women baristas and the great women baristas of New York. And I really met
Hmm.
there's some amazing, uh, I don't have a great skill set. I'm a journalist. I write about coffee. So I'm always amazed when these people come in, and the quality and the explosion of specialty coffee everywhere. And
Yeah.
let's focus and make this an industry where people that are ordinarily marginalized by so much of society, women, LGBT community, whomever, people of color, that they have full representation, and we really bring light to that. And that's certainly something we want to support, encourage, and educate people about here at the Coffee League. So, all right, thank you so very much for your time, Laura Gonzalez. All right,
No problem. Thank you.
thank you.